Today is a Saturday, the 30th of May 2025. It's the weekend that we sharing experience and asking questions about the Patriot Zens in our practice with the topic make a diligent vow. When we're talking about making a diligent vow in practice, Trung Phong Minh Bổn, Zen Master, encourage us to have three requirements. Open your eyes of wisdom, seeing through your mind, and practice diligently. And we need the three requirements in order to walk toward our destinations, go back to our house. When we practicing, which means we making a vow already for any normal life activity. When we have a goal, like a students, when they choose their major in study, they focus on that studying of that majors. People said that if you have an expertise in one job, then you will be successful. When you believe in your own ability, your own talent, then even the failure will be a good things for you to learn from your mistake and be successful later. And that is in the normal life, normal person, when they want to be success, they need a strong mindset and a diligent practice in order to be successful. So in this week, we talking about making a diligent vow in practice so we can walk toward our destinations. So in the Buddha teaching, when you have a diligent vow, which means you need to detach yourself from all the thinking in the mind. When you don't have the belief in your own Buddha nature, or you don't have the good proper practice to walk toward your goal, then that's just the attachment, that's just the narrow practice that won't get you anywhere. So when we're talking about the diligent practice, I'm giving several examples so you can use that to recognize the proper way to go to the ultimate goal, and eventually we'll see your own Buddha nature. No matter what happening surrounding us, any circumstances, any small things of challenges going on during the practice, we continue to go on the right path and walk toward our destinations. Just like a person who go into the forest to find a the vines in the forest in order to make some good wire or making some fabric. So two people go into the forest to find the vine. When they found the vine, to put making them into two piles and carrying them back. So when they going back, they saw some other people had the vines already dried, and they want to trade for the fresh vine. So out of the two people, one person decided to trade the dry vine and continue to carry those piles of dry vines home. The other one still have the fresh vine carrying, because he thought that he had put in too much effort in order to get the vine, so he didn't trade his fresh vine for the dry vine. So on the way back, the one with both of them seeing another person who had the vine that already prepared and having the cord exposed already, and want to trade for the person who had the dry vine. So the person who had the dry vine decided to trade in for the one that have the vine with the cord exposed already. The other person still want to carry the fresh vine back. So that is an example of the Buddha gave us that as a intelligent person with the wisdom, they always be flexible with all the situations. They trade in and don't attach to what they had, and trade in everything in order to go back faster. And if you still attaching to your whatever that you had, then that is not a good intelligent person. So with that story, as a person in normal life, when they doing the business, they always have the way to make the benefit for their to improve their business. So when you want to do the business, you must have the plan and always have the way to make the benefit. So just like that example, as a practitioners, when we practicing, we always detach ourselves from all the thinkings going on in the mind. We need a strong mindset and go practicing diligently, and even when we have an achievement, we have to put that down, detach ourselves from that achievement so we can walk toward our goal. In order to do so, we need a strong vow and a strong diligent vow in practice. It's just like the person who know how to trade in the fresh vine with the dry vines, and trade in the dry vines with the vine with the core exposed already. That is a way that we detach ourselves from all the things that we achieve in order to walk toward our goal. We don't attach ourselves to just one thing that we had from before, like a person who carrying the fresh vines out of the forest. So as the practitioners, when we learn the Dharma, the true Dharma from the Buddha, we need to practice in order to digest our studying, and we need to know how to put down whatever that we achieve and have no frustrations when we detach ourselves from all of the thinkings in the mind. And that is the way of practicing diligently and smartly. We always put down our attachment to anything, any achievement that we had during the practice. And as we doing so, we will be closer to the destinations of Buddha nature. There's a questions in the Zoom from Huệ Đạt asking about what is our own questions and the question from others. What is the difference between our own questions and a question from others? When we're talking about our own questions and questions from others, those are also just the skillful means that the patriarch use. When a person practicing in order to show off, there's practicing to other, which means you still using the questions from other people and you're relying from other people. But if you are asking the questions and keeping the doubts and making a vow to go toward your destinations, And that is the questions that you had for your own. When you still have the differentiations between your own questions and other people questions, that is also the mind of going out of the stream of practicing. When you still attach yourself to the names, to the forms, then you are still not going on the right path. When we knowing the way of practice, we need to do the practice. We need to start the practice. And we go in directly to our mind and cultivate our own mind. When we do in the Patriot Zens, which means we do in the direct methods that cultivating our own mind. When we hear any words of explanations, those are just an explanation of the practice. We need to start the practice in order to experience the meanings behind those words. When we hear the explanation about the doubt, we thought that the doubt is having some places for us to attach to. And when we explain that the doubt is a not knowing aspect of the mind, then our habit of attachment telling us that there's a not knowing aspect of the mind to attach to. So we always running after the forms. We always running after the thinking in the mind. And because of that, we always running after all those creations from the mind, and we going around in the circle of birth and death. That's why when we doing a practice, asking questions and raising doubt, we need to believe in our own Buddha nature. The more we practice, the more we believe in our own Buddha nature and detach ourselves from all of the thinking in the mind. We don't run after anything created by our own mind. If we doing so, which means we going out of the stream of practice, we running after the words, the noun, and we are not going back to our stream of practicing. For some people, even though sometimes they learn about the practice already, but they only based on the understanding and not doing the practice. They staying at one spot, even though they knowing the practice for many years. The Patriarch said that you need to practice, you need to learn from the experienced ones and make a strong vow, a diligent vow in practice in order to practice and detach yourself from anything from created by your elusive thinking. we need to base on our circle of birth and death and practice. We don't afraid of the circle of birth and death. It's not because it's difficult that we stop our practicing. We need to do the practice diligently and have the true mind in practice in order to go back to the right path of practicing. When we have the six senses in contact with the six objective aspect of the six senses, then we always running after those objective thinking in the mind. That's why we have all these suffering, because we already attach ourselves to those objective thinking in the mind. When we can keep the doubt will sweep up all of those thinking in the mind for us. And when we can keep the doubt, which means we can stay away from the discriminations, we stay away from all of those suffering and misery that we met during the practice. When you feel like you are not as good as other people in practicing, just go back to asking questions and raising doubt. When you feel like you are doing a good job in practicing, then still go back to asking questions and raising doubt. No matter what's going on during your practice, you still need to go back to your asking questions and raising doubt until you wake up from the dream, and you will realize everything happening in the dreams are not true. Pháp tuệ, go ahead. I have a could you there's a poem that I want you to give us some words of encouragement when we cut our hair and go into the practicing in the monastery. Could you give us the explanation, the difference between person who practicing in a monastery and a person who practicing at home? So that is a poem to compliment the person who make a vow to practice in the monastery. Those are just the just based on the form that we have those poems in order to encourage people who enter the life practicing in the monastery. We put out and trade in everything to make a vow to practice in a monastery. We cut our hair to destroy the image, the normal image of a normal person in order to enter the practicing life in a monastery with living the loves of our families, the love of ourselves, in order to make a vow to enter the practicing in the monastery. So when we leaving our home, we make a vow to study the Buddha Dharma in order to liberate ourselves from all the sufferings and all the thinking in the mind. When we leaving our house to enter the monastery, doesn't mean that we try to show everybody our ability to help others, but we must have our training of our mind in order to study out for our own self. We make a vow to practice until we see our own Buddha nature in order to help others later. So as people who meet the Buddha Dharma, they start to practice, which means they planting a seed of becoming a Buddha in the future. So for normal people, sometimes they couldn't recognize between the right way and wrong way to practice. That's why the Buddha, the patriarch, using the skillful means, those poems, to encourage new nuns and monks who entering the life of practicing in the monastery to keep their vows in practice. It's just like keeping the pearl, the diamonds, and carefully protect your own pearl or diamond. We need to keep the true Dharma going by practicing them in order to show others as an example for others to reflect themselves in and start a practice too. When we can keep our true Dharma going on, which means we need to use what we learn and apply them in our practice. We don't just understand about the Dharma and show off to other people what we learn. We don't just talk the talk, but we need to walk the walk by doing the practice. When we talking or we speaking the Dharma talk, we sharing the experience based on our practice. It's not only the understanding, the knowledge that we learn to decorate our life. However, we apply what we learn into our life of practice, and that is the way that we do the respect to the Buddha teaching. Even though those poems are short and brief, but they are very, very deep in meanings. If we apply it into our practice. At first, even though when we still don't understand about the meanings behind those poems, we learn them, we memorize them, and use them as a reminder to direct us back to the practice. When we know how to apply those teaching in a poem into our practice, then we will realize the real meanings behind those.